The content presented is a lie and the mainstream media always tells the truth. COVID is true and you should be vegan. Everything that Paul and Soft say isn't real. Don't use these words against them because they really love being natural and all of the fat positivity movement. Also, Gymshark is the best company.
Absolutely. Please do not take this program seriously. And get your booster injection as soon as possible. The more the merrier. Fitness advice from an obese person is completely factual. Only lift once a week for 10 minutes, otherwise, you are being fat phobic. Viewer discretion is advised.
All right, welcome to the podcast. Set our discretion, or set our disclaimer, so you guys are now safe to listen.
Well, yeah,
we're covered.
Considering we're both in phenomenal shape, we don't know anything we're talking about. So
we're borderline gods. Did you see the enhanced games is a go?
The what?
The enhanced games.
I didn't know. I always see some kind of, it's something about like a bunch of rich businessmen were like, we want like a non-tested like environment, right? That's what it was.
So basically this guy came up with this idea that we should have an Olympic Games that's not tested, and just to see like how far the human body can really go. Because everybody in the Olympics they're very stringent on testing.
I was gonna say more than what men's open competitors do for what the body can do.
I mean, it'll be different, but probably more. It'll be different stuff, but probably more of it. But they test the Olympics pretty heavily. Yeah. They do. I think they do like random testing over the years. So like they'll show up. So-called random. Throughout the 4 years prior to like entering into the Olympics, just to be sure that who is already registered for the next Olympics is good to go. So with the enhanced games, it's going to be very interesting, and we'll be able to compare and contrast because the Olympics is tested, where the enhanced games isn't. So we'll be able to be like, all right, well, here's enhanced, here's tested natural, guys. So like, let's see what happens. So it's happening in 2025.
Oh, that's wild! I can't wait. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like, there's a couple people like in the major leagues who, some of the best players of all time not being included in the Hall of Fame because of the, PD conversation, like Barry Bonds, who, 700 plus home runs. But there's always people like, and myself, like I grew up in the steroid era, or like the end of the steroid era of baseball. So for me, it's just more fun to see that. And there's a ton of people who hold that opinion that it's like, baseball is great. And again, we're using baseball for an example here. Baseball is great, but imagine if you watched the dudes just take anything that they want. And it was like, because the standard mound to plate distance is 66 feet. So it was like, make the pitchers throw from 30 feet away, let them juice, and just see what happens.
You send absolute fucking piss missiles straight at the fucking batter.
Yeah.
And then the batter just fucking send a zinger straight out the fucking field without even trying.
And
instead of a baseball bat, they use like a baton.
And like people joke about that, but I'm like, that would be so, like, people who don't like baseball because they say it takes too long to watch, it's too boring. If you had a league like this, it would be like the Savannah Bananas. I don't know if you know who they are.
Yeah, we're watching them in Boston when we were in a bar once. Yep.
Yeah, it would be like them, like just a complete entertainment.
Just
factor.
Entertaining, yeah. That's all it is.
That's why like the WWE works. Everybody in there is juicing. Everybody's doing something at the WWE, but they're an entertainment business, and they do some incredible feats of strength, some incredible athletic things, and it's because of what they're taking. So
those guys are fucking crazy too. They'll talk about how like they get all the blood on their face, and it's from cutting their forehead without people realizing it.
The refs, like either in the ref sleeves or in their belts, will have little razors, and when they go to check in with someone, they'll like either slip the razor or do the cut themselves, and then they back away.
Which is fucking crazy.
the amount of like it, we talk about it being staged and whatnot, but
Yeah.
it's scripted out to a point. The entertainers in the ring, who are the wrestlers, they have to now provide the show, but the amount of like like having to remember major moments they have to achieve. The ref has like the timing. The refs are the smartest people in those rings because they have it down to like the minute of what's supposed to happen, and they're telling the wrestlers what to do. Like if something goes wrong or they forget, the wrestlers and the refs are in constant communication, and you never see it because they hide it so well.
Yeah, it's nuts, man. I mean, I respect it. It's just not fighting. It's not real fighting, but it is
Sure,
entertainment.
but they don't sell it like that.
Yeah. No, they don't. They don't. Do you see the clip recently of I forget who it was. I could picture him, but he was on a podcast, I think, and they asked him what he hunts on his like enormous like land mass that he owns, and he goes, moose, elk, deer, wild boar. And
What?
he goes, bear,
What?
Stone Cold. Like he just like starts doing it.
It's Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. I forget exactly what he said, but I thought that was funny. He just like went right into it and he fucking nailed it too. That impression was on point.
Brock has an incredible Stone Cold impression, and every podcast will try and get it out of him. And so they just ask him questions that make him say a list, and then everyone in the room will start going, "What?
What?" Yeah, that's right. That's what they were saying. Because he went moose, and he go, what? He goes, what? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because that was one of Stone Cold's things when he was in ring and on mic. When he would say just one thing, and then the crowd would go, "What?" And so there's that. It's been turned into a meme now, but he talks about. Let me tell you what Stone Cold likes to work out: deadlifts, what? Bench press, what? And he just starts listing everything in the gym.
A bunch of yeah. He did it with drinks too. Yeah, it's classic. But what we planned on for today's episode, before we started shooting the shit, we got a recommendation from a listener of ours to go more into steroid horror stories and maybe read some off that we've seen. Some on Reddit, stuff like that.
And it's a pretty good thing to bring up too, because our viewer base, we're not predominantly 60 plus. Most viewers are either Paul and I's age or younger. And that's kind of what we work with. And so in order to properly educate, we gotta remember to I think we say it every single episode, but we tell you guys, do not touch anything. There is no reason for anybody younger than us to be touching anything, or even if you're our age, unless you're going down a very specific bodybuilding path, or maybe you're a paid athlete in one of these non-tested leagues. There's no reason otherwise to do it. So to have these conversations about stuff going terribly, maybe some anecdotal things that we've had that haven't gone well, just to help you guys really understand, you should not be touching anything.
Yeah, a lot of stuff we'll be reading today is it was hard to find these really bad stories. It's not like these happen every single time. So I don't want to get that impression or to give that impression off, but it does happen. And a lot of these stories we'll be reading off, the types of people that will experience things like this oftentimes are in this realm already prior to taking steroids. Really all steroids do is just heighten of who they are as people. There's a video I was watching, I think it was from Tarek, More Place, More Dates, and he was saying, he was reading the story off, and this guy was taking Tren, and he just was freaking out on people, and he's a warehouse worker and was just telling people to fuck off and shit. And he's like, at what point do you think that this is beyond the trend and just who you are as a person? And it's yeah, I mean, it's, you talk to anybody who's been on Tren, they'll say a lot of them will say it's fine. They just were more irritable, more angry here and there. But a lot of people use it as an excuse to be an asshole and be oh, it's just because I'm on Tren, man. It's just the Tren talking. It's not me. It's dude, no. There is a certain point where it's it's you.
everybody wants the blame game. Everybody wants an excuse for why something's going on. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, it's like some of these stories you got to take with a grain of salt too, because some of them could be. I mean, the ones we looked at from what we could tell are real, but some stories out there they're fake. They just want clout. Some of them are exaggerated. Some of them are not telling the whole truth, stuff like that. So
some of them are
that could
just
all play a role.
yeah, some of them are just straight up fiction that some school board wrote and pushed out to their community, trying to get people off of it. So you got to really, like Paul said, take it with a grain of salt. Like if it's a story and it makes you scared and it did whatever it's supposed to for you, good for you. You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to push it on other people. All we're doing today is providing our views on the stories. It's basically a reaction video. That's kind of what
Yeah.
we're going.
And we'll also talk about like there is some actual science behind some of these stories. So if you guys, I don't know, like the stories that we were reading through, to me, I didn't really find anything like super that like really could be taken as like I guess offensive in a way. If it was hard to read or something like that. There does one of the stories I have to read for everybody is it does involve sex and what they're into for kinks and stuff that changes when they were taking something. So we'll talk about what that really means there, but just so that you guys know, like that's what we're going to be talking about here. In the case you don't want to listen to that, then you can click off. We totally understand, but there's also going to be
We'll
some
have
drug abuse
timestamps
as
too.
well. Yeah, there's gonna be some drug abuse as well. The timestamps will be down in the description, at least on YouTube for sure. I'll try to get it on every other platform, but if that's if that's a soft spot for you and you don't want to listen to it, then it's okay to click off. But yeah, that's a couple of the stories we got today is how it affects people, and that's this is a gateway to other things. So we can talk about it
Yeah.
and see what happens.
I guess starting the conversation with personal stuff. If either of us have had any, it doesn't even have to be anabolic, but just bad thing. It could be even supplements too that just have not sat well with us and is not something we would recommend.
I mean, the GH that I had was bad. That's not all GH, but the GH that I
Mm.
took was from a bad source. Long story short, I know a group of people that supplied it for me, and they basically was like, yeah, this fucked up a bunch of people. Um, so we decided to drop the source entirely, and because we don't trust them anymore. So the GH fucked up quite a few guys. For me, I was only on it for like a couple weeks or a few weeks really. I put on like 15 pounds of water in just a couple
Mm.
weeks. My I got borderline pre-diabetic because my blood glucose was just through the roof. So it just was not whatever the hell was in it was not good. I'm not sure what it was. But we hopped off it like pretty much right away. Like we took it a few days because it could have been like short term water loss or water gain. That's what I meant earlier. I put on 15 pounds of water, not lost 15 pounds of water. Put on
Yeah,
15
yeah,
pounds
yeah.
of water. So we're like, oh, maybe it's just temporary. Let's just stick it out for a few days. Let's just see what happens. And after like 2 weeks, it was like, all right, we're pulling the plug. Like it's been long enough to where your body should have adapted by now if it was something other than the GH. And that was the only differing factor was the GH. So we just pulled the GH and called it a day.
Hmm.
That's really my like worst horror story, I guess. Tread didn't really do too much to me. Um, for me, it's not the relationship destroyer. It doesn't really affect me too much mentally. Maybe a little bit of irritability, but that's about it.
Can you raise your left hand just to prove that you're still married?
Yeah, there you go.
Yep.
Good to go.
So, as you can see, he did not lose his relationship.
This is correct. This is correct. Yeah, I had the show after our wedding, so we're still married. No problem. Um, Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. It's been,
Yeah.
but I'm also very lucky that it doesn't affect me too much mentally. A lot of guys get affected very, very heavily mentally, or physically, or both. For me, it's really not too bad, to be honest. It's just side effects for me are pretty manageable for the most part, except for hair
Nice.
loss. That's kind of a bitch, but that's about it.
Yeah, but that also is partly genetic for you too. So it's a
Yeah,
little bit of
predisposed
this, a
to it
little
for
bit of that.
sure. For
Yeah.
sure, predisposed to it.
Yeah.
Um,
I obviously don't have the experience that you do, but I mean, pre-workout on leg days, don't. That's a no-go for me and you. So,
yeah, just too much. I get too sick. Um,
yeah.
Also, alpha yohimbine too. Completely forgot about this. My coach mentioned it the other day because I was getting nauseous while training, and it wasn't because of alpha yohimbine, but alpha yohimbine in pre workouts makes me nauseous as hell. I don't know
Mm.
why. I remember taking a pre workout. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with me? I'm like, every single time I fucking take it, I'm nauseous. And it wasn't the food, it wasn't the training, like everything was the same. So he's like, send me a photo of the nutrition label on your pre workout. And I did, and he goes, it's the alpha yohimbine. He's like, easily. He's like, I don't know why they put it in pre workouts. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know if my coach knows why, but
Mm.
I don't know why. But I do know that he said that it makes tons of athletes nauseous. It's very, very, very common. So,
Mine is just I really don't need anything like for me pre-workout really is just for the stem and in my leg workout
mhm.
I'm pushing myself to the point of death. Like it's I train harder on legs than anything else because I mean that's just my mindset around it
Yeah,
and I just my body feels like such shit after working out and you know taking pre as the Karens would say. Are you taking pre?
is that
Um
steroids?
do you do supplements?
Next thing you know, you're gonna be injecting steroids right into your penis. I hear.
He's taking rabies.
Is that HIV? That you're taking?
So yeah. Other than that though, pretty clean slate. I don't really
Mhm.
have any comparable measures. More just gym war stories, but that's not our topic for today.
Yeah. So we could just get into like some of the stories we've seen online. Um,
I got a banger if we want to start with this one.
yeah. Go ahead. You could. Can you
Let
share
me
your screen?
yeah, I can.
Yeah, go ahead. You guys can read along, read with us, read ahead, whatever you want to do.
All right. So it's this one here. And it says, was just a fat ass lifting on and off for about 1 to 2 years and thought I'm ready to cycle. That right there.
Perfect. Perfect
Lifting
start.
1 to 2 years and ready to cycle. For
Perfect.
for reference, Paul, you were I want to say 5 years into your lifting career before you
Um,
hopped on.
no, it's like 3 or 4, something
Three or
like that.
four.
Before I really like hopped on shit. I've only been on shit for like 3 years now.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I'm 4 or 5 years in, and I'm in like the gray area with I'm not taking anabolic. So point being, 1 to 2 years is just
That's
that's
too
like
quick.
that's like paying like for expedited shipping on a product that has like no impact on your life. Like it, you don't need it that quickly. Um,
It's like that
first,
meme with with Arnold where he's like, it was like AI and it was like, if you're in the gym for one day, you get no results, take steroids.
take steroids. Yeah. um, first cycle was oral only. Took Winstrol altogether for about 4 or 5 weeks,
Jesus.
and was angry that I
Already a
didn't
bad
look like a
start.
Greek god by then. Yeah,
Already a
Winstrol
bad start.
as your only compound, and it's your first compound. Like
First
I'm
cycle and oral only should not be in the first, it should not be in the same sentence.
when when I was reading that, I was trying to think like maybe he like you know how like there we have our like stores that theoretically the back side of the store you could probably buy something back there. I'm trying to figure out if he just knew someone that had Winstrol because like that's not any
And he's like,
research
fuck it,
you
I'm gonna
do.
try it.
But any research you do does not lead to take Winstrol first. Like
Yeah, Winstrol is
that is
just a
such like a
cutting
niche
agent.
little piece. Yeah, exactly.
It's for shows. It's like a cutting agent for shows is what guys use Winstrol for.
And you take it for like a couple weeks, and that's it.
Yeah, it's towards the end. It's like the last half of your show, or like prep. Really, is when you take Winstrol.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot
So
of women take a lot of women take Winstrol during their prep. It's great for women. It's
true.
easier for women to take it, just like Anavar. Anavar is one of the main steroids for women, but for men, it's mainly used for prep. And even then, it's pretty harsh on the body, so you don't
You just
necessarily need to
remind me
take it.
of something, so I'm gonna pause from this real quick. But there's a girl who lifts at the gym, the Empire. Used to go there, and she posted
Yeah.
this transformation picture, and her quads are, I mean, her quads are unreal, like
Yeah,
unreal level quads, better than most bodybuilders. Even like Empire has some good bodybuilders too. Like she has the best quads in the gym, and she like from a year took it like pretty good. I mean, you could make the argument like it's possible, but it was pretty good. And the top comment was, "Crazy what Anavar does to you."
basically, yeah. That's probably what it was. Anavar, maybe some Winstrol at some point during a cut, something like that. Maybe a dash, a test in there, just a little bloop, little drip. All right, go ahead.
um,
Next.
yeah. So thought my Winstrol was bunk because basically the only logical reason why I didn't look like Arnold 5 weeks lifting on Winnie. That's kind of like the meme you talked about.
Yep,
Or
exactly.
maybe it was because I had about 25 to 30% body fat, and my diet consisted of 90% of Subway, Burger King, and McDonald's.
So for reference, like 25 to 30% body fat, like that's like borderline more like that's like obese. Like you have like
Mm,
that body fat percentage is basically obese.
it is.
Like to see abs, right? Even remotely see abs, you have to be single digit body fat. Most guys who are like considered skinny fat are like maybe 13 to 14%. Most guys who are
Yeah.
considered fat or chunky are like under 20%, between like 16 and 20%. So like 25 to 30%, like you're like that's fat. Like that's
Yep.
like that's what he's working on,
For
which is good. But
forty
he's fat.
percent, 40% is where morbid obesity takes in.
Yeah, he's definitely like right on the
He's a big boy.
not based off BMI, just based off like visual representation. He's like
Yeah.
basically obese. Yeah,
Yeah.
BMI you could that doesn't matter. But body fat percentage wise, yeah, you're like yeah. Anyways, 90%
Up it.
bullshit. Okay.
Yeah. Upping the dose to max 200 megs of Winstrol didn't do much either. Imagining such a disgusting fat ass on Winstrol only, taking up a 200 megs of Winstrol and being angry after a few weeks lifting he isn't shredded. So the next only reasonable step was to order some Superdraw. Was taking it straight after Winnie for another 8 weeks or something with maximal dose up to 50 megs. I ate even more because I legitimately thought I was missing gains.
Jeez.
This was also the time I was kicked out of Chinese all you can eat because I ate them poor.
No, checks out.
I was there every day and eating for 1 to 2 hours after a gym. That's
How do you?
the,
How does your
the
body
level
handle
you have to
this,
do to be kicked out of an all you can eat.
man? Like all you can eat buffet Chinese right after the gym makes me want to throw the fuck up just thinking about it.
Yep.
That's so
Yep.
bad.
Well, like for me, when I think of like Chinese, I'm thinking of lo mein because I love lo mein, but I can only eat so much lo mein, and then like some kind of meat on top, and like I'm thinking about a giant plate of that, and that just disgusts me after the gym because after the gym, maybe it's because I'm gotten into such a routine, but my body is like such a specific craving. It's like just give me rice, bro. Give me rice, a meat,
You
and
gotta
like
clean.
a head of broccoli. Like that's what like it's not even the clean factor. It's like, well, yeah, it's clean, but I mean, like, it just looks like I don't know. To me, it looks appetizing. Like
Mm-hmm.
Chinese food just doesn't look appetizing to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
It makes me want to throw up just thinking
I'll,
about it.
I'll eat it. Like, don't get me wrong. Like some good Kenny's, like, but
Mm-hmm.
I won't. It just doesn't look good to me.
Not up to the gym.
Um, yeah. Oh yeah, especially. I must have eaten about 7K calories per day or something like that. I was so effing fat. I felt like total shit, but somehow my ego was completely pumped up and I thought I was buffed up when my shirts didn't fit anymore. That actually, this right here, this sentence, this happens to just about anybody that takes something where you feel pumped up, even if you're not seeing gains, just the size.
Mhm.
And when my shirts didn't fit anymore, that's a great feeling when your shirts don't fit anymore, but it has to be correlated to, actual gains. If you don't fit in
Mhm.
your shirts and you're not trying to bulk and you're like dirty bulking and you're just throwing on a ton of size, that's not the same. What like the cool one for that is like when you put on a shirt and it's not the shirt doesn't fit, but the cuff of the sleeve is pressed up against your bicep and
Yeah.
tricep. That's a cool feeling. That's cool right
Yeah, when
there.
the torso is loose, but the arms are getting tighter, or
Yep.
like the top of your shirts are getting tight.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's my problem. Like in my armpit area, like that's such a bitch to buy shirts for because my armpit, like it'll dig into my armpits so easily,
Yeah.
and like that's annoying.
That's where it's you're allowed to have some ego though, but not based off of what this guy's been doing. Um Oh, and during the whole thing, I never took any liver protection. I was completely hammered 1 to 3 days per week, and I thought I didn't need PCT because it's just orals. Glad I didn't damage anything. Don't know how he didn't damage anything because this is a dumb cycle. But he doesn't really give us a conclusion, but I'm going to say that he, after writing this, must have hopped off because this is not sustainable. It's not effective. It's not, you're not doing anything. He's eating food that you would eat in a bulk. Like, sure, if you eat 90% Subway, Burger King, and McDonald's, there are bodybuilders that have done that. That is something that,
Hmm.
with intense training, proper rest and recovery, you can turn into an actual like productive bulk. But mixing that with Winstrol is such a like I don't understand the point. Are you trying to gain size? It's literally like if you took like a science equation and you took out only the parts that you want. Because Winstrol is a cutting agent, so you want to be lean, and you're eating to gain. So you're like, I'm just going to add lean muscle. It's not going to come
Yeah,
in fat. It's not going to take away from me. I'm just going to add lean muscle.
I mean, just the whole thing just shows like he didn't really know what he was doing. He didn't really know what he
Exactly.
was talking about. Like it was just he thought that it was a magic pill, and thought that he could eat whatever he want and do whatever he wants and get shredded very fast. But
Yep.
he learned the hard way that that's not the reality, and that's the reality for all steroids. People think it's a magic pill, it's a magic injection, it's a magic liquid. It is far from the truth. I mean, I've said this a million times. I can't fucking stand it when people say, "Oh, well, he's on steroids. Of course, he's bigger." And it's like,
Yep.
go through one real cycle and see what you have to do to actually make gains. Yeah, your body will recover faster, which is the point. But because of that, you're in the gym for twice as long, pushing it twice as hard the whole time, and dealing with all the side effects on top of it just to get more gains. And that's also just to make it even worth it. If you're lifting the same way you always have, you're cutting it short, you're not putting in too much effort, it's pointless. You're going to recover faster, yeah. But it's like right now, my body can barely handle 2 on 1 off while not on anything. Like it's like I'm exhausted after every workout. I'm going like 45 minutes and I'm fucking toast. On gear, hour 15, hour and a half, 6 days a week, not a problem. But
Mm.
so I have more energy, more stamina, but then I have to do that in order to actually even make it worth it. If I was doing that now, it wouldn't be as many gains. I mean, it would be more gains, yeah, but it wouldn't be nearly as beneficial. So it's not a cop out. It's not like you just take it and you're good to go. The only one that's like that is like Trend. Trend's the only one that like really actually affects you on its own, uh, before you even really start working out with it.
And
You
we've
know,
said it. We've said it too, where like people on gear are the hardest trainers in the room too. Like
you have to
with
be.
everything that Paul just said. Like someone who, like for example, there's a guy at the gym I used to lift at who very clearly on gear. Like his body
Hmm.
is not attainable by any means, and to you can look at him with two different mindsets. One, it's the mindset you just described. Oh, he's on gear. That's how he got that big. And then there's the other one that said, oh, he's on gear. He got like it's it's the same words, just changing your complexion and tone and
Yeah.
meaning two different things. And the second one is the one that, everyone should view with. It's like this dude, and there's ladies too, but if you're on gear, you're training dummy hard. Like it's I mean, when you came down for I don't know when you came down. It was not the most recent. It was maybe a year or
Oh,
two
December.
ago.
I was
Yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
keto too. I was in keto at the time
Yeah,
too.
but you were on cycle, right?
Yeah, it was pretty light cycle, but yeah, I'm pretty sure. I think I was
Yeah,
on a little bit of test and some cabergoline to fight some prolactin, but that's it. It wasn't anything
but I
crazy.
I remember doing my lift and being like, "All right, I'm getting a good lift," and you're like, "You ready to do more?" I was like, "What the
Yeah,
fuck?"
nice. You're like going to failure, and I'm like, that's a good warm up.
Yeah.
Let's go into a working set.
And I'm like dying under whatever we're doing, and
Yeah, yeah. My warm ups right now are like 16 to 20 reps, like not quite to
yeah,
failure, like pretty close to failure. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah,
like when you introduce somebody to like real, like actual intensity, and like truly go into failure where you like are dying, and it's like, wow, okay, I did not know what I was doing before. But yeah, no, that's how it is. You have to be on a whole nother mindset. It's almost like masochistic in a way sometimes.
hmm
um but all right, here is a story I found. This one is one that's about this guy's sexual kinks, which we'll get into. It does have some merit to it. I think it's this one. Yeah, I think it's this one. There we go. All right. So it's my trend story. So, boys, this is going to be a bit of a rambling and a long ass post. I'll try to keep things concise, but after finally 26 years on this godforsaken planet, got my ADHD diagnosis, and holy hell, does Concerta work. Anyways, everything I'm going to say in this story is 100% true. No memes, no embellishment, no BS. I just wanted to share my experiences. There are a lot of young folks on here. I'm going to preface and say don't do trend. While my experience overall turned out pretty positive, I was depressed when I started the cycle and had a poor state of mind. 26 is too young for that shit, and it can fuck you up bad. I'm PCT for the cycle right now, and while not horrible by any means, it's the shittiest PCT I've gone through to date. Anyways, started a cycle. This one being my fourth plan for 14 weeks on. So it's his fourth cycle that he's taking, and it's a 14-week cycle. Started with 500 milligrams test E, so 250 milligrams twice a week, 10 milligrams D-ball per day, first 4 weeks to front load cycle, 30 milligrams T-ball per day for the first 8-week cycle, for the first 8 weeks, which didn't really, to me, that doesn't really make any sense because what's the point of taking D-ball and T-ball when T-ball is D-ball without the water retention? But it could be because of like financial issues or something like that. T-ball might be more expensive for him. But he did say front load with the D-ball, so maybe he's just trying to give his body a kickstart and call it a day. And then for another 4 weeks, just keep taking D-ball or T-ball, I mean. Anyways, it all went smoothly until he got to 10 weeks. A buddy / mentor of mine asked if I wanted a vial of Tren Ace he wasn't going to use for free. Of course, I had to say yes because I'm stupid. I had just had my bloods done a week earlier and everything came back damn near as perfectly as they could be. So I thought, fuck it, and hopped it off the deep end.
good for him for having a blood come back perfect on because I got to 10 weeks, so 10 weeks of that cycle he just said, and having his bloods come back perfect. Good for him for
I
that, at
mean,
least.
it depends. Like, it depends on what he's looking at. When he says his bloods, if he's talking about like his lipid profile, his cholesterol, stuff like that, that could absolutely turn back perfectly normal. Like, I was middle
hmm
of prep and got my physical done, and they took some labs, and everything turned out basically perfect, like right in the normal range. Um, my hormones would have been a completely different fucking story, but lipids and stuff like that could be in a good place. So, it's also 6 weeks after D-ball, so it's very possible that D-ball could have affected it, and it just was long enough to where like the D-ball wasn't affecting him anymore. And I guess this is 10 weeks, so he's probably only on test for about 2 weeks at this point. if he really did follow this right here, if he really did follow this, at 10 weeks he'd be off T-ball and D-ball and only on test for 2 weeks. Anyways, with that being said, the vial I was given had just enough Tren Ace in it to cover 200 milligrams per week for 4 weeks, so that's exactly what I did for the final 4 weeks of my cycle. Obviously far from optimal and stupid, but I was in a pit of sad at the time anyway. I didn't really care, so YOLO. 200 milligrams per week is really not much for Tren, to be honest, and 4 weeks is a relatively short cycle. You see like 6 to 8 weeks typically with Tren, or maybe even longer. Ideally not longer than that, but that's typically what you see. And a common dose in the bodybuilding world on the lighter side will be like 150 milligrams. Typically what I hear is either...
No, go ahead, sorry.
I'm going to say, usually what I see with Tren is either 150 or like 400, and there's like no in between. So it's either you're light at 150 or you go like balls deep at 400.
The anecdotal data says that you feel, and I mean, correct me if your experience was different, but you feel Tren right away, though.
Yeah, it's pretty much instant. The night I took it, at the time I was taking 0.33, as close to 0.33 milliliters as I could, because it was 150 milligrams per milliliter, and that's how much I was taking per week. So it was 1 milliliter a week. So I tried to get it as close as I possibly could. I think it was 150 milligrams. It might have been 110. I'm not sure. But I felt it the next day. I was training and I was like, this feels fucking amazing. I'm like, I don't want to ever stop training. This feels so good. I don't want to stop. And that's what Tren will do to you. It genuinely makes hard work feel genuinely very, very good. It's like, I don't even know how to explain it. It's like you get a super, super crazy rush of dopamine, but that's like the whole workout. Like every single day I look forward to training because it made me feel that way. And that was immediate. That was right away.
Yeah, and there's also the story of Larry Wheels like getting a deadlift PR by like 100 pounds the day after hopping on Tren or something like that.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah,
it's very hard on the body. But anyways, he took it for 4 weeks to 200 milligrams per week. Fast forward 2 weeks in, haven't really noticed much. 3 fucking weeks. At that 3-week mark is when it finally happened. I hit glorious Tren euphoria like a freight train. I came out of a depressed slump. I was starting to feel like a human again. Now for the fun. So for some reason, mentally, it didn't really kick in for 3 weeks. Which for me, mentally, stuff kicks in at 2 weeks. Like the side effects and stuff. I felt it right away, like the euphoria when training and stuff like that. But like that's basically, if you feel euphoric is basically what it is. Like you're almost high when you're training. Like that's how good it feels, basically. Even at a low dose. But for him, it took 3 weeks. For me, most of the time, stuff takes 2 weeks for my body to adapt. Tren was pretty much instant. So the irritability did take a couple weeks to take. Anyways, he goes, I'm borderline asexual, so even on gear, the libido's normally pretty shit, but Tren changed all that. I started pounding my sweet, beautiful life into the dirt 3-4 times a day. It was great. I loved it, and she loved it. Perfection. Asexual just basically means like you just don't have sex. You're not into it. You don't need it. You don't like it. And a lot of times that's just attested, especially for men. If a man says he's asexual, it's most likely because his libido is shit. We're not built that way. We're not wired to be that way. There are a lot of women that are like that. They're also not wired to be that way, but there are a lot more women that are asexual than men. But women do have libido just like men do. So typically not the case. In this case, I mean, good for him, that they were able to do it 3-4 times a day. That's exhausting. That is exhausting. But I mean, they were happy. And then he said, and then around 4 week, another switch went off. I always laughed at the Tren turns you gay stuff, but it started to believe that there's some real merit to it. Wifey always wanted to put a finger in my butt. Always said hell no until that fated day. My Tren-addled brain let her do it. And boys, it is great. To make a hella long story shorter, over the next week, we tried a bunch of new experimental, crazy, sexy stuff and ordered about $500 in new toys. Holy shit, that's a lot of money. Needless to say, the sex life has never been better. Even sitting here on PCT, been able to keep on like fucking like rabbits. Mood, everything has been elevated since Tren. My life legitimately, at least partially, has been saved by it. It gave me the confidence to seek treatment for my mental, physical health issues. I've improved my financial acumen greatly, and of course, the sex. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk. Hopefully, it was entertaining enough to keep your attention. But before I go, I will reiterate: Tren is the best thing ever, so don't fucking do it. It's like heroin in a sense. You feel great until you don't, and at that point, the damage is done. That's a great comparison.
Yeah, that is.
Tren is the best
Yeah.
thing ever, so don't do it. Like that's what drugs are like. Like people talk about it. Like there's a comedian, Louis C.K. He made that joke, and he made a joke that drugs is the solution to every problem. So don't ever take them. Don't ever do drugs.
Yeah.
It's like the drugs are so fucking good they will ruin your life. So don't take them. Like that's how good they are. Like that's why like addiction is a problem, because drugs are so good they will ruin your life. That's what addiction is. So that's why he's saying Tren, don't do it. And that is very true. Like I say, don't take Tren. It's really bad for you, and it's the worst one you could take. But then I say like it makes you feel euphoric, and it's like you open up that can of worms, there's no going back.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very easy to get addicted to. You'll feel great until you don't, and at that point, the damage is done. My risk this time worked out. Worst negative side effect I got is a single little cyst on my shoulder. Could turn out a lot worse for you or me next time. Seriously, be safe out there. Love you all. P.S. Gained approximately 25 to 30 pounds of muscle during the cycle. Not true. He probably just gained 25 to 30 pounds of total size, not muscle. And based on how being off is going, prob's going to keep about 20 pounds. To which he just talked about his dick. Yeah. Anyways, point is, 25 to 30 pounds in one cycle. Which is like a meme. So this is Derek More Dates subreddit, and for some reason that's like a meme just to say what kind of like what your dick is, like this, like the measurements of your dick. I don't know why they'll even start it with the title of the Reddit post, just like their dick size. I don't know why. Anyways, 25 to 30 pounds in one cycle is just not of lean muscle tissue is just not possible. He probably just put on 25 to 30 pounds of total weight.
Yeah.
He may lose down to about 20 pounds total. And a lot of that's probably going to be water. He's probably going to hold on a lot of fat and a lot of muscle that he gained. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if like for his fourth cycle, he did it for 14 weeks. I would be surprised if he put on like 3 or 4 pounds of muscle. Maximum, no more than 6. No more than 6. There's no way. The average, like it's the number of anabolic cycles you have is also like the number of years you've been training. So the first year of training is going to be your best year. You got newbie gains. You're going to put on a ton of muscle. You're going to lose some fat. It's newbie gains. This is the same thing with your first steroid cycle. You're going to just blow the fuck up. You're going to lose a lot of fat. It's just your body's going to respond really, really well to it. It's your first cycle. But every single cycle after that, every year of training after the first year, it's going to be diminishing returns. It's arguable that it's almost 50% the previous year. So if you put on 10 pounds the first year of muscle, the next year you put on 5 pounds, the next year you put 2.5 on, next year you put 1.25. Like that's what people argue. So being the fourth cycle, I would be very surprised if you put on more than 5 pounds of actual lean muscle tissue. There's a photo of Regan Grimes, and he showed a 10-year difference, and he showed like it was like stage weight, and it was like a stage shots and stage weight, and it was about 80-pound difference over 10 years. And so like, let's say like all variables just kind of out the window. Let's just say the fat percentage and water and all that are the same. He gained roughly 8 pounds of muscle per year over 10 years, right? The first year, my natural lifting was 8 years of muscle. I gained 8 pounds of genuine lean muscle tissue after getting scanned. I got scanned towards the beginning and scanned towards the end, and I was up about 8 pounds of lean muscle tissue. So like that's borderline steroid usage, but he had to average that over 10 years. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it wasn't steroids, it was just newbie gains.
Yeah.
So he didn't put on that much. That's also something to keep in mind too, is that like for a professional bodybuilder who's on the Olympia stage over 10 years, he gained 8 pounds per year of lean muscle tissue.
Yeah, the best of the best.
Yeah. So like to say you gain 25 to 30 pounds in one cycle, you're out of your damn mind. It's not possible. But anyways, that's that story. I thought that was kind of interesting. There is some merit to the like trend makes you gay thing. So what happens is trend directly affects your progesterone. And what that's going to do is, I was actually reading a bit about this recently, just for shits and gigs. And basically what it does is progesterone has been found to be higher levels in gay men and lesbian women. I don't know if it's in like that's just what the studies have found. So it's possible that progesterone is tied to what you find sexually arousing, and the higher progesterone is arguably the more like common or more likelihood you're going to find like the same sex more attractive. So while you're taking trend, that's why a lot of guys get into butt stuff and shit while on trend, is because it raises your progesterone and it literally changes what you find sexually arousing. Granted, this guy is on PCT and they're still doing all this stuff, so it is like a kink that he unlocked. But that's what trend will do. It directly affects your progesterone, so it's arguable that it will make you into stuff like that. And that's okay. Like it's like we don't kink shame here in this podcast. If you're into something, you're into it. But you know, with that, like if you don't just become gay when you're taking tren. If you say you turned gay while taking tren, you were gay beforehand, and you didn't have the balls to like really go after it until you had tren. So you don't just turn gay. You know, I argue gay is genetically a part of you, just like being straight is kind of a part of you. So taking tren just doesn't just make you gay, but it could make you into butt stuff like you did here.
So and his wife was just hanging out, and then one day, bam, she got the business.
Everything started up, yep, just randomly for her. So good for them. So that's one story for you.
I got this one. I figure. Oh boy, went down the wrong pipe there. This one is based on the drug part that we just talked about. How that one compared, trend to drugs. So
yeah,
this one is an addict that was taking stuff. So
great, that's great.
Yeah,
great combination there.
Let's see, this is this one.
Drugs and more drugs.
Yeah. So my very first cycle was advised by my drug deal in Mr. Minnesota at the time. So call out 4 years ago. Who was Mr. Minnesota 4 years ago?
I mean, it might not have been 4 years ago.
I know.
I've been clean for over 4 years now, and the gym is probably the sole thing that saved me. So this is at least 8 years ago. Yeah. 8-9 years ago at minimum.
Yeah. But 500 test, 500 trend, HGH. No
That's
AI.
So much.
Yeah. No Caber, no Prami, no SERM, no PCT.
Jeez.
But then this right here. We're also heroin addicts popping Xanax, doing coke, etc. We'd literally shoot up and then try and hit the gym. I did not even have my own legitimate gym membership and had zero idea about a diet. I was young and luckily never got gyno or messed up anything else. Not sure if that was directly related to my need for TRT later on life or if I already had low T. I'm going to take a pretty, I'm going to say medical professional here. If you're TRT later, it definitely has something to do with how you have this kind of a cycle and no PCT.
I mean, it depends on, like, there's so many factors that go into it, but I definitely think that it played a role. The cycle definitely played a role. I mean, those are very high aromatizing agents that he's taking, and the fact that he didn't take any AI or Caber to fight estrogen and prolactin is fucking unbelievable. Like, that's the fact that he didn't get gyno is genuinely a miracle. Like, that is like, I can't express that enough. That is genuinely a fucking miracle. It blows my mind that he didn't even get any gyno. Like, that's crazy. Anyways, go ahead.
Honestly, looked pretty damn good. Nowhere near where I am now, but considering the circumstance, it could have been worse. I don't remember my mental state during the course of this because I was so doped up. I remember being depressed AF and completely fatigued all day for obvious reasons. I've been clean for over 4 years now, and the gym is probably the sole thing that saved me. Embarrassed even admitting this, I was been in a bad place and trusted the wrong people. Luckily, nothing dramatic happened other than a valuable life lesson. For him, nothing dramatic happened other than a life lesson. For other people, everything in this post, that's like, he is in a very, I mean, you said miracle with the Gyno. He's in a miracle he didn't
Mhm.
die doing this. This is, you add a cycle on top of his lifestyle, and it's a miracle.
Yeah, it
And
really
this
was a
one doesn't
miracle.
have a ton of like story to it, but it's just it's there is a connection to continuing to be an addict with his lifestyle and his cycle. Like, someone who is an addict and has the addictive mindset is not going to stop doing something in their life that is their regular lifestyle when something else is going good for them. Like,
Hmm.
him topping on 500 tests, 510 HGH, he must have felt unreal. Unreal.
Yeah,
And adding,
superhuman.
yeah, exactly. And adding his addictive lifestyle choices to that, neither one of those in an addictive mindset is going to stop. You're not going to stop one of those. So the fact that he's just alive to write this is a miracle.
Yeah, I mean, it's the combination of the two is just not a good. It's not a good thing. I mean, it's addictions all over my family, so I know it's like genetically in there.
Mm-hmm.
I argued addiction is, or like prone to addiction is genetic. Um, I mean, drugs is a different story. Anybody can get addicted to drugs, but having an addictive personality is arguably genetic. So for me, um, I've always tried to stay away from anything that could cause an addiction, and steroids is one of the things that I'm really proud to say that like I haven't gotten addicted to, but I could totally see why people do get addicted to it. You come off anabolics and you feel like utter shit. All your gains disappear, all that. So it's like to be taking drugs, like hard drugs, on top of steroids is just a recipe for disaster. You're
Yep.
just asking to get hurt. Um, there's a clip recently. This guy was shitting on bodybuilders and how like prone they are to getting hurt, whatever. They're like, oh, this guy's like shitting on bodybuilders. He's like, it's so fucking dumb that I've seen him before. I forgot what his name is, but he's like some influencer that's like broccoli head type of influencer. And he's like, uh, if you're gonna be a bodybuilder, he's like, you're more prone to accidents. This bodybuilder and this bodybuilder both got injured outside the gym. And he's like, that's dumb that you did all this effort and blah blah blah. And it's like the top comment goes, yeah, they're prone to more accidents because of what they do in the gym. And both of the accidents, like where they got injured, I forget who it was, were both tendon or muscle tears.
Yeah.
But like they were awkward. One of them was like stopping a dog from falling off a couch and tore his like bicep or something because he like leaned weird way
Oh, I've
and it
read
just
about that one.
popped.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's one where this guy's like leg is like quad tore or something from something, and they were both stupid injuries, but it's like that's all it needs. Like your tendons are so weak on steroids because you're pushing your muscles so hard. You really need to be careful because it's very easy to tear it. So to go do that plus also take drugs and like anybody who's been drunk or high will know that like there are consequences and your head is out the window. Like there's no such thing as
Mm-hmm.
consequences. It's like brave, like alcohol is like brave juice. It's just like you're dumb brave on it. There's no such thing as negative consequences when you're drinking alcohol. So to combine the potential issues of more prone to injuries plus the issues of taking drugs that eliminate the consequences in your head is just not a good combination there at all by any means. Let me see. I got one here. Let's see how this goes. I got a story here, relatively short, so we're not taking up your guys' whole day. Let's see. Yeah, it should be this one. My first and last experience with Tren. This is another More Plates, More Dates subreddit post. This happened a couple years ago, and it was my second cycle. I was on around 250 Tren a week. and I decided to also add 150 tests on top just to see the result, which I'm surprised he wasn't on test in the first place. I hadn't really heard much about that combo or anything since it was my second cycle, and it was like 4 years ago. So this was posted 3 years ago. This was about 7 years ago. So we're talking like 2016 or so, something like that. Maybe 2017, something like that. And 150 tests for like bodybuilders, that's like TRT levels. That's not like an actual like real cycle. So it's pretty light shit he's taking. Like in comparison to what other guys are taking. I mean, he's only taking 400 milligrams total a week. That's really not too bad at all. Like this is a pretty light cycle, but 250 tren and 150 tests just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
I got all my supplies from my buddy. We'll call him D. He was also my fellow coworker, and he guided me through my first cycle, which I got pretty decent results from. And I didn't really experience much negative side effects, since he pretty much held my hand through it. It was also around 219 of raw steel at age 20 in only his second year of lifting. So at the time, I would do anything, even cut off a nut to look like him. So I decided to trust his wise words and take tren because he had gotten a good kick into his body progression from it. Fucking no shit. By the second week, I couldn't drive like a sane human being and kept thinking I was going to hit someone, despite occasionally being alone on the road. I even one time almost swerved into a tree because I forgot to check my blind spot and shit myself thinking I was going to crash when I was pulling into my fucking driveway. So that's the paranoia that tren can introduce, the really bad anxiety. I didn't get it really that bad at all. But a lot of guys get super fucking paranoid on tren. That's why they call it the relationship destroyer, because they make up these scenarios in their heads. Like they're, girls cheating on them or somebody somewhere wanting to fight them, even though it's just a made up scenario in their head. Oh, this guy's looking at me the wrong way. He must fucking think this or this and this and this, and he wants to fight. So I'm going to go fight him first. So it's like, it can ruin your life because of that. Anyways, my anxiety had become horrible and fast. But D told me just to finish the cycle to just get a good one in quotations. By the third week at work, D, who was also my coworker, had been on the phone with a female at work constantly, and I became so paranoid it was my crush from 4 years ago. See what I'm saying? Fucking made up scenario. Completely made up. Like the chances are of him talking to his crush from 4 years ago is fucking insane.
And even if it was, it's your crush from 4 years ago.
Exactly. But so like, why is he mad about it?
Yeah.
Well, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, it's just completely made up scenarios in his head. Day by day, my jealousy, curiosity, and fear that it was her was killing me. One day, I became filled with rage and jealousy and was totally convinced it was her. So I snatched his phone out of his hand to look at who he was talking to. And it turned out to have been some internet girl from a different state he was trying to hook up with for whatever reason. See? Made up a scenario. Like, nothing was remotely true. He totally understood the motive behind it and told me it was normal, but I felt like a totally different person with a different mindset, and I couldn't even control my thoughts anymore. Knowing what I know, if I was in this guy's shoes, I'd be the same way. I'd be like, look, dude, it's not you. I know what this is like.
Yeah.
It's the tren talking. I wouldn't even be mad. I'd be like, look, I know this has been probably brewing for a while, and you just hit your boiling point.
And then you mess with them and go, I'm talking to your crush on my other phone.
And be like, I get your mom in my phone too. He says, I had increased my bench press max from 215 to 230 by week 5. Okay. That's not much. And I was leaning, not much on tren, I'm saying. Not much on tren.
Yeah.
That's not much on tren at all. My strength was like, I doubled in like 2 weeks. Like, it was crazy. So, 15 pounds really isn't too much, but it also shows like his lack of experience, because he's talking about his PR and he's taking tren. 2 plates as your PR and tren should not be in the same realm. You should have much more muscle density and muscle maturity before you take tren. 225 should not be your PR, or like around there should not be your PR. Anyways, by week 5, and I was looking lean and shredded, and I was constantly horny like every second of the entire cycle. You know what that feels like. By week 6, I would constantly overthink about my ex that I had still really liked at the time, despite following through, and somehow convinced myself to try to talk to her, and I called her. Oh boy. And take a sip of this real quick.
Yeah, Kermit meme.
The tea is starting.
Yep.
When my phone call rung, it run for about 3 seconds, and then she hung the call up, and I became so angry from it. I punched a hole in my door and almost fractured one of my knuckles.
Which, if your phone rings for 3 seconds, there's a decent chance that's a regular progression and it regularly went to voicemail.
It could have just been off.
Yeah.
And like I don't see, this is also makes me think like this might just be part of who he is. I totally get like the anger and irritability, but like you can keep that shit under control. Like
Yeah.
you could just the amount of times like when I was on trend during my prep, the amount of times like anything that didn't go exactly as planned in my head would make me so irritable and so angry. I'd have to just sit there and go like just like breathe for a second. Because if I didn't, I'd freak the fuck out. But like you could control it, you know, it's like just relax, dude. So he just has no self-control. D, who was also my roommate, tried to calm me down. I barely remember it even happening because of the amount of anger that he overcome me. So yeah, he just saw red.
Yeah.
My anxiety was horrible. I was getting constant headaches, and I would occasionally wake up feeling weak, drained, and sweaty on random days for no reason. And I felt like I was generally going crazy. One thing I do remember from Trent is the night sweats. The night sweats were pretty intense. Every single night, I'd wake up drenched in sweat.
And
That
your
was
gym
pretty intense.
sweats. I remember getting texts
Oh
from you
yeah.
saying, like, I just walked into the gym and you were just drenched.
Oh, I was walking like I'd start my first set, my first like warm up, like just warming up the joints set, and I'm already starting to sweat.
Yeah.
And by the time I'm done training, like my shorts would be fully soaked. Like I take off my
Yeah.
shirt because it's like my shirt would get so heavy and cold. It was annoying. Let me see. If I'm crazy, I would get extremely annoyed by the smallest things. Nobody could even talk to me without me showing a noticeable hatred for them. I know what that's like. Somehow, some way, had it gotten so bad that I decided to stay on trend because I was looking more jacked by the day, and I was trying to get to the point where I would be so ripped I would be irresistible to my ex, despite her literally hanging up my call. That's too bad. That's a reality is that being shredded or being buff is not what women want physically.
Yeah. But it's
They
what a
want
lot of
chunky
guys
dudes.
it's what a lot of guys do to try and get girls.
Yeah, it's not the reality anymore. It used to be. You know, women used to appreciate the hard work and effort, and that's what was attractive was that they're able to stick through something and commit to something. But that's not what
Yeah.
they see anymore. They want guys who biologically look like that they could handle being a dad, which is
Yeah.
like dad bod. But dad bod also varies from person to person. I saw a video recently. This guy was like pretty buff, like probably like 15% body fat, so like not really like lean by any means, but he was a pretty buff dude, a lot of muscle. And women were like in the comments like, "This is the dad bod we're talking about." That's not a dad bod. That's a bodybuilder on a dirty bulk bod.
Yeah.
Like that's a very rare person. Anyways, let me see. Hang up my call. I was hitting the gym every day. I'll be physically able to, or yeah, I would hit the gym every day. I was physically able to, and whenever I was not feeling like shit and dead. By week 7, I couldn't drive to save my fucking life. I couldn't even step outside of my apartment without me feeling like a car was going to run me off the road and hit me and leave me paralyzed for the rest of my life. That's just the paranoia. That's just that
Mm-hmm.
side of things. The anxiety, paranoia. The headaches and night sweats were almost an every other day thing. And for the rest of the cycle, my motivation to keep going was to hit the gym, get more jacked, and get my ex back. Yeah, the night sweats for me was just pretty much right away. I just every night I'd wake up. I literally some nights I remember this. Some nights I'd be so drenched in sweat, I'd actually take my shower towel that I used the day before and literally dry off my hair because I was so drenched in sweat.
Yeah.
And I'd like get my chest and my back and shit because I was just that drenched in sweat. My friend had realized just how bad the situation had gotten when I started talking about seriously beating my ex if she didn't take me back as soon as I got off my cycle. I don't even know how it got to that point, but it did, and it felt serious. D told me to just get off it, and I took the right measures. My dick didn't work for about a month, but it came back pretty normal. I'm not sure if I ever recovered mentally from it or if I'm just scarred from the amount of thinking about my ex and anxiety. Moral of the story, do not take Tren if you don't want to go fucking crazy.
I think that last sentence where it said, I'm not sure if I'm mentally recovered, that plays back into whether it was him or if it was the trend. Like,
Right.
Tren, yes, messes mentally, but it's an amplification of your own tendencies. So,
Yeah. So like he probably has already like anxiety and all of that are an issue that he has to deal with. And the Tren just really made it go through the roof. So
Yeah.
when he says, I'm not sure if I'm mentally recovered from it, it's probably just a part of who he is. So he's not mentally recovering from anything. He just went through it really bad and worse than usual. And he's still kind of dealing with whatever's going on in his head. So it could also be like, that's if the dosage is even proper too. Like, that's the other thing you got to take into account too. You got to have a lot of trust in the guys you're buying shit from. You know, it'll fuck you up. And if they're not 100, if it's not like pure, like the sources I go to either provides pharma grade shit, so it's very expensive, and then the other one doesn't provide pharma grade shit, but he gets it tested, and it's at anywhere from 96 to 99% purity, depending on the item. Usually, though, like testosterone and stuff like that's not like 100% pure, or like on the lower side of that pure side, because it's very easy to make testosterone. It's very cheap, so it's easier to kind of bunk it a bit. But if they're not true to the actual dosage in there, or the guy who, the person who like dissolved the liquid, like if they're using like MCT oil, for instance, they have to do the proper amount of MCT oil into a vial in order to get a certain milligrams per milliliter. So if they fuck that up, that'll fuck up your whole dosage. And that'll fuck up your whole cycle, and that'll fuck up your head, your brain, like your muscles, your heart. Like, so you put a lot of trust in the guys you're buying shit from. So it might not have been 250 milligrams. It could be 250 milligrams, but also adding in 150 tests on top just doesn't really make any sense. You should have done, this gets that done. You should have done more tests, honestly.
Yeah.
Like 150 milligrams of test is kind of fucking useless at that stage. Like it's useful, but it's not like, if he's going to take try and just take more tests, it's, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Like, it's a stupid dosage. He didn't really know what he was doing when he wrote this like program for himself. You should take more tests than you take tren. So if he was taking 250 tren, he probably should have been on like 400 tests. But then again, you shouldn't be that high anyways. He should have been like 150 or 200 and then 300 tests.
Actually, It was D who was writing that for him.
Yeah, D, his coworker and roommate and gym buddy, all in one.
As the story
they never
leave
each other's side.
I was going to say, as the story progressed, I was wondering if it was going to go that D was actually his ex. Just keep adding in layers to who D is.
Ends up being like his ex, who's like also his baby mama daddy or something. They're a transgender man who had their kids, so now they're mom dad.
Yeah.
They're what's the joke from? I think it was Family Guy. Their other one was hey Peter, you want to see my vaginas? I don't know. That's like my mom dad, my dad mom. He gave birth to me. My dad mom gave birth to me with her vaginas.
When Joe's dad transitions, that's what it is.
Yeah. So what was it? I forget what the joke was. I don't know. It was something like that.
There's a lot that came out of that.
Yeah, exactly. Could you want to see my vaginas? Anyways, that's it for Reddit stories today. If you guys enjoy this content, let us know. Leave a like. We're on YouTube, so if you're on YouTube, leave a like, subscribe, comment, all that. On Spotify and stuff like that, I'll open up like a yes or no kind of poll to see what you guys think, just because it is different from what we've ever done. So hopefully you guys enjoyed it. With that being said, we'll see you guys later, and thanks for listening.
Hell yeah. Peace.
See ya.